Welcome back to Pastor Plek's podcast, and I am so grateful to have in studio with me today the one and only Mrs. Leah Brown. How are you?
Doing okay today. Doing great.
We'll take okay.
Cannot tell
and then
a lie.
Also in studio is the one and only Pastor Joseph Aiken III.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm fabulous. Thank you for asking.
You do look fab. You look different.
With the hat?
Mm-hmm.
You look fab. You look different.
Can you describe the hat? It has like a bumblebee.
B.
Different.
Oh.
Boom. Love it. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, it's my boy brand.
Little bit slow on the uptake. Be different. That was great. Well, we have got a great podcast today. I am Pastor Plek, and I am so excited that all of you are joining us. And we talked about with Mrs. Leah Brown about the leaked document from the Supreme Court a couple weeks ago, and we wanted to bring back because we had some follow-up questions to that specific podcast. First off, from a news standpoint, Leah, have you heard any new things? Is Justice Alito, I know they've been protesting at his house. Has there been any talk of them coming out with an opinion sooner rather than later? Tell me what you know from you're just scavenging the news wire.
The latest I've heard is that U.S. Marshals have been deployed to all 6 of the more conservative leaning justices.
There are no conservative or liberal judges.
That's
just
why I put
judges.
quotes. They're not supposed to be partisan, but I guess we've labeled them all.
Okay, good. So, all right. Well, because what about the other 3? I mean, don't they need protection as well?
I think they're doing just fine from what I hear. But the opinion, I have to eat my words. I guess they did not do what I thought they would do,
right,
which was release it right away to prevent the anger from percolating.
Yeah.
So my new theory is that they're going to do exactly what they were going to do in the beginning to show that you cannot move us.
Right.
I think that's what they're
okay.
What
Well, hopefully that works out. Yeah. Well, hey, we did get some questions, Mrs. Brown, about this particular thing that we talked about, and specifically Bible verses. In fact, I thought this was sort of an interesting. I got a meme, or I was actually shown a meme that I thought was sort of a fascinating sort of deal, and it was sort of in response to our. Hopefully, I can find it. It was in response to our podcast, and it was lies the church told me from a meme. That's the account. That's the account. Lies the church told me. Abortion is only.
Maybe we shouldn't be putting those.
Sorry.
Out there for people to follow.
Should I not do that? Okay, sorry. I don't follow them. But this is what they said. Yeah. Do you don't want to give the opposition, I guess,
fodder?
Thank you. All right. So anyway, but what they said, or maybe we do, and maybe no, we don't. Okay. Abortion is only mentioned once in the Bible, Numbers 5:21, where it provides instructions on how to perform one. Now, this is interesting, and this is where I want Pastor Joseph Aiken III and I to jump in here. Not that I don't want to hear from you as well, but
I want to hear from you guys on this.
This is great. So I want to, Joseph, can you read Numbers chapter 5, and then let's just, to give it full context, let's start at verse 11, and then we'll end it at like verse 31. And but let me give you just what you're hearing, because I feel like this would be helpful. You're going to hear something about the jealousy offering, which is sort of a fun thing to talk about in this. I love, because if you didn't know that Mrs. Leah Brown is formerly a feminist, and I don't know if that formerly is really the proper word, but and so this
feminist, as it has been defined by the culture in today's day and age, I don't subscribe.
Okay, what do you subscribe to? Is that a fair question, or
yeah,
no?
I'm kind of unsubscribing. Feminism,
okay,
so I can't really
tell you. We're unsubscribing. Okay, excellent. Well, anyway, this is usually what gets. There's many things that this could cause people to get fired up on, but it was about a jealousy offering. If a husband thought his wife had cheated on him, Moses gave them instructions on what to do. So that's what this is. So Joseph, can you give us
Numbers 5:11 through
31?
31. All right.
Here we go.
And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to the people of Israel. If any man's wife goes astray and breaks faith with him, if a man lies with her sexually and it's hidden from the eyes of her husband, and she is undetected, though she has defiled herself, and there is no witness against her, since she was not taken in the act. And if the spirit of jealousy comes over him, and he is jealous of his wife who has defiled herself, or if the spirit of jealousy comes over him, and he is jealous of his wife, though she has not defiled herself, then the man shall bring his wife to the priest, and bring the offering required of her, a tenth of an ephah of barley flour. He shall pour no oil on it, and put no frankincense on it. For it is a grain offering of jealousy, a grain offering of remembrance, bringing iniquity to remembrance. Verse 16. And the priest shall bring her near and set her before the Lord. And the priest shall take holy water in an earthenware vessel, and take some of the dust. Earthen vessel, and take some of the dust that is on the floor of the tabernacle, and put it into the water. And the priest shall set the woman before the Lord, and unbind the hair of the woman's head, and place in her hands the grain offering of remembrance, which is the grain offering of jealousy. And in his hand the priest shall have the water of bitterness that brings the curse. Then the priest shall make her to take an oath, saying, if no man has lain with you, and if you have not turned aside to uncleanness while you were under your husband's authority, be free from this water of bitterness that brings the curse. But if you have gone astray, though you are under the husband's authority, and if you have defiled yourself, and some man other than your husband has lain with you, then let the priest make the woman take the oath of the curse, and say to the woman, the Lord make you a curse and an oath among your people. When the Lord makes your thigh fall away and your body swell, may this water that brings the curse pass into your bowels, and make your womb swell and your thigh fall away. And the woman shall say, Amen, Amen. Then the priest shall write these curses in a book, and wash them off into the water of bitterness. And he shall make the woman drink the water of bitterness that brings the curse, and the water that brings the curse shall enter into her, and cause bitter pain. And the priest shall take the grain offering of jealousy out of the woman's hand, and shall wave the grain offering before the Lord, and bring it to the altar. And the priest shall take a handful of the grain offering as its memorial portion, and burn it to the altar. And after shall make the woman drink the water. And when he has made her drink the water, then if she has defiled herself and has broken faith with her husband, the water that brings the curse shall enter into her, and cause bitter pain, and her womb shall swell, and her thigh shall fall away, and the woman shall become a curse among her people. But if the woman has not defiled herself and is clean, then she shall be free, and shall conceive children. This is the law in cases of jealousy, when a wife, though under her husband's authority, goes astray and defiles herself, or when the spirit of jealousy comes over a man, and he is jealous of his wife. Then he shall set the woman before the Lord, and the priest shall carry out for her all this law. The man shall be free from iniquity, but the woman shall bear her iniquity.
Okay. Wow.
Summary?
Summary. Yeah, I know that that was a lot, but I loved listening to it because I think it gives a full context of what we're talking about. In other words, if a man thinks that his wife has been sleeping around with one of the next door neighbors, he is able to take her to the priest, say like, I have the spirit of jealousy. They do a ritual before the Lord, and then the priest gives her bitter water, which is essentially poison. And then she would drink it. And if a miracle did not happen, then she would die. If the Lord did not go out and protect her, she would die. Or not die. She would get sick, and you would see it. But then after that, you would take her out and stone her according to the law of Moses. And so death would be impending. So it's not, this might give more fodder for more people to talk about other things, but the reality is this is not about abortion. Now, where people think it is about abortion, in the NIV 1984 version talked about the let me see if I can remember. It said, in verse 21, here the priest is to put the woman under his curse, the oath. May the Lord cause your people to curse and denounce you when he causes your thigh to waste away and your abdomen to swell. In the NIV modern day translation, let me see if I can pull that up. It says that it will cause the woman to have a miscarriage. And I think that's where people are going, see, there it is. And I don't want anyone to doubt the veracity of the Bible over this. This is not like a translation issue, but the reality is I feel like that's where people tend to go. Let me see if I can pull up the modern oh, no wonder that version is not there. Let me see if Bible Gateway has it. Yeah. So maybe help me out here. I feel like that's the problem where we find just people struggling to wrap their head around, because when you have different versions of the Bible, and I'm not saying that the NIV is like bad, but it isn't the most accurate. In trying to make it a dynamic translation, which is thought for thought versus word for word, they went with, may the Lord, verse 21, may the Lord cause you to become a curse among your people when he makes your womb to miscarry and your abdomen to swell. And so they took a little bit of poetic license with that to kind of help understand, but I don't think that's what it means. It's a physical distension, a distortion of the body, not necessarily a miscarriage that's going on.
Okay, so the claim is that this is God laying out instructions for how to perform an abortion.
Right. And so clearly not an abortion. So and this is where people take the Bible out of context a lot. I don't know if you guys have ever experienced people doing that. And this is clearly one of those times. See, God is for abortion. It's the only time it's mentioned. It's how to do one.
So why would God put these instructions in here? What's he trying to do?
Yeah, God is trying to help create a civil sort of order so that men didn't just, if he thought that his wife had cheated on him, he wouldn't just take her out and kill her. So it was to provide protection for women so that the Lord could stand in for them. And I think that actually becomes a very powerful thing. And I think at this time you're like, well, no, Chris, you're killing women by giving them poison. To which I would say, no, remember, this is time when God actively participated in the lives of his people, part of the Red Sea, had sand swallow up the enemies of God, had bitter water turn to fresh water with a drop of a tree branch. You had a whole bunch of stuff going on in these times, and miracles were a lot more, they're happening a lot more frequently than we see in our modern day, and maybe just in Western world, Western Hemisphere.
Okay. Can I tell you my understanding of this, and then you tell me where I'm wrong?
Yeah, go ahead.
My understanding is basically that if a man thinks that his wife cheated on him, then he takes her to the priest. They give her this poison, which will basically kill her.
Mm-hmm.
But if God intervenes to say she's innocent, then she lives.
So she wouldn't necessarily die. That wouldn't kill her, but it would cause her abdomen area where the womb is to become bloated.
Okay.
And so that's how you know.
It's a tell.
It's a tell if you were to go and take her over and do a stoning, because that was the punishment for a woman who committed adultery.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then the guy that she committed adultery with, if you got that out of her, then you'd go and kill him too. So There you go. So good times, everybody, with death and mayhem in the Old Testament. But no, so clearly this is not about abortion. And so that's why we went to when we had you on the show last time, we were talking about it was birth, or God's creation started with conception. In the womb, God is forming the child. God is looking at unformed eyes. God is looking at an unformed body. He is able to see the baby in the womb, and so he recognizes it as a life, and so therefore it is alive. And going back to I think this is the part where I don't want to be making stuff up, and so I'll just trust you as my resident expert. That the what was argued in Roe v. Wade was that a baby in the womb could not be termed a life because and they didn't have the technology back then to say, we know that for a fact this is a life. They weren't looking at sonograms. They weren't looking at any of that stuff. And so they had no ability to see those kind of things. Is that right?
They didn't believe that the baby in the womb had any viability to it.
And so what we've learned from...
So it's unworthy of protection.
Right. And so what we've learned from failed abortions is that the baby actually does have viability. But that shouldn't be that's a sort of a secular argument for it on why you should not have an abortion, because the baby is viable outside the womb. Even if it wasn't viable outside the womb, I'd still think that was God's intended creation of someone made in the image of God. So that's that. Okay. Anything else you want to say about that, Pastor Joseph?
No.
Now, here's one thing I do want to talk about is what does the church say about ectopic pregnancies? And I'm going to ask Pastor Joseph first, which Leah's probably like, why would you do that? Because
He needs to. I want to hear from Pastor Joseph.
yeah, but because Pastor Joseph has had experience with this.
Yes.
Ectopic pregnancy.
Well, back in the day, no. So our first son, they thought was ectopic pregnancy.
Oh, okay.
We were told. So found out we were pregnant, and I remember it was my wife's birthday. Hey, we're pregnant. A couple days later, the Friday, and her birthday's tomorrow, by the way. But so it's coming up. But go to the doctor, and they're looking for the baby. They can't find the baby. They're like, "Are you sure you're pregnant?" I'm like, "Yes." Took about 15 pregnancy tests. Like we're pregnant, and they're like, "Well, we don't see a baby. It could be ectopic." This is a Friday afternoon. They're like, "We'll have to do some more tests, all this kind of stuff," and they sent us home. And so over the next 48 hours, of course, my wife was thinking she's gonna die. And for those that don't know, that's basically outside of the uterus birth. So in the tubal birth. And I tell you, it could be like you could die from it.
Mm-hmm.
Babies can't grow in the tubes,
Right.
kind of thing. And so she was worried, I was worried, and stuff like that. And so
What ended up happening?
went back only to find out that she had 2 tumors, fibroids about the size of a softball and a baseball, that were blocking to where you could see the baby. So the baby was actually in there, and then she got put on bed rest for the next 7 months. So it was
brutal, if I recall, for you.
Yes. Oh yeah, 100%. Lived on the 3rd floor. Had to carry up and down flights of stairs.
That's scary.
Wait,
too.
you had to carry her up?
Oh yeah, she couldn't walk. Like it was like when I say bed rest, I was.
So that's how you
bathing
got
her.
strong.
That's why God made me strong. Like I was
There you
strong. So yes, I was cleaning and all the things that you would do when you're caring for someone who is on she can't do anything.
Oh
7
my
months.
gosh.
Yes.
Yeah.
7 months
So,
of that.
J4 has a lot of paying back to do when he grows up. But yes, that was so definitely better in the sense of the baby lived, but at the time, but it was definitely a scare.
Yeah, because ectopic pregnancy, I mean, if they don't remove the pregnancy from your tube, you will die.
You would not.
Right. And that's where I don't think anyone's advocating for
that to be illegal.
Right. Yeah.
Right. I think there's some confusion because they medically are referred to as abortions,
Mm-hmm.
but there's a difference between spontaneous abortion, which is considered a miscarriage,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's a medically necessary abortion, which
Right.
would be the ectopic pregnancy. And then there's the elective abortion, it's confusing because of the way they code them.
Right.
And we're not all doctors, but the elective abortion is the one specifically being referred to in the legislation that would put limits
That
and
makes
bans
sense.
on
Okay,
it.
so whenever we're talking about what is going on in the Supreme Court world, what they're talking about is elective abortions.
That's what Roe v. Wade was talking about. It wasn't talking about anything else. So yes, as referred to when we're talking about Roe v. Wade potentially being overturned,
Mm-hmm.
it wouldn't have anything to do with ectopic or miscarriage. But there are some laws in place that I think are causing confusion. Well, it's not the laws causing confusion, it's rhetoric around the laws causing confusion. People are starting to believe that if Roe v. Wade was overturned, that protection for ectopic pregnancies and miscarriage,
Right.
like people would be prosecuted for miscarriage or for ectopic pregnancy, and that's unilaterally.
So
not
this is
true.
why we have the disinformation board that is just being raised up to solve people saying bad things, wrong things about.
They should put us on the board.
So miscarriages are considered abortions coded wise?
They're coded as spontaneous abortions.
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I think that's helpful to know. I didn't know that. I don't think.
I mean, it's a pregnancy, a baby that was aborted naturally. You didn't
Right.
do anything to cause it in the case of a miscarriage, but it is still coded that way.
All right. Well, so I know that this is, I know you don't have a crystal ball, magic 8 ball or anything. Crystal ball. I know you don't have either of those, a magic 8 ball or a crystal ball. But what do you see what's going to happen the next week or so? I thought this was the opinion was supposed to be written by June some point.
The opinions.
And is that the right term? An opinion?
That is the opinion, and they're usually already written. They're honestly, the justices vote on a case right after they hear oral argument.
Mm-hmm.
So they heard oral argument for this in February for the Dobbs case, which is the one in
Mhm.
question. And they voted right then and there.
Right.
And the sources have said the vote was a 5-4 vote. And then the Alito opinion was drafted later, and that was leaked. And in the Alito opinion, the source that leaked it also said the vote's still 5-4.
Right.
So it hadn't changed. It could have changed. It could change between the leak and the release.
Right.
Typically, they release their most controversial opinions on Fridays.
Right.
Or like at the end of their term, and the end of their term is coming in June. Like I think they have a week left.
So this is where, obviously I think we're talking about Justice Roberts, who probably is the, swing or the shift.
Justice Roberts not even a swing.
I know. Shifted vote might be the best way to put that. And this is where I'm like on that one. And
You're saying that he might be the most influenceable,
right.
but it wouldn't even matter.
It wouldn't matter.
Because if I'll let you finish.
No,
I'm
I guess
sorry.
what I'm saying is like it would be helpful if the Chief Justice would see, and maybe this is where he wants to say, I'm not swayed by political whatever, because maybe from my standpoint, if he would align himself with the 6 or the other 5 to make it 6, it would make it less of a thing of, hey, let's go take out a justice and we could have this thing reversed instantly. So I think that's the only concern that I have. But at the same time, now it's not speaking in a spiritual sense, from a governmental sense, the sanctity of the Supreme Court,
Which is very important to Justice Roberts.
right?
He's very concerned with that.
Right, and I think that's the part where I'm like, it'd be helpful if he went to a 6-3, and obviously I know that's not a big deal.
Let me just backtrack
Yeah,
a little bit when you use the word take out.
Yeah, I know, because there's a like people could go on the crazy train and remove a Supreme Court justice with in a
Which
violent
I don't
way,
think
right?
that would change anything. If the vote had already been taken and the draft already solidified and signed off,
Sure,
it wouldn't change anything.
but
if
couldn't
somebody
you
died
bring
in
another
between
case and then have okay, I need to shift the court, so now it's 5-4.
bring another lawsuit?
Yeah.
The court decides what suits to hear and what not to.
Okay.
So the likelihood of them hearing another case on this is just very, very low.
Okay. All right. Fair.
If that makes sense.
It does, but I still think I know, of course, the justices are not partisan, so of course they wouldn't hear another.
We all know that they are, but just like technically.
I guess that's what I'm saying. I think that's and maybe that's all part of the risk of being a Supreme Court justice, is that
It shouldn't be, but like we talked about a couple weeks ago when we recorded this. I mean, this is it was an unprecedented link. It really has kind of torn the fabric of the Supreme Court,
right.
and who knows how bad it's going to get. It's just you have to have integrity and trust to work in that institution, and it really was, like I said before, one of the last government bodies that retained that, and to see that kind of gone is scary.
Yeah, because now you can politicize just about anything. It would seem that the next big case, they're going to figure out a way to politicize it by having another leak happen, and that's negative. But and then if you look at the Supreme Court not as a unbiased group of judges, but as a political tool, then you're gonna the lifetime appointment was supposed to guarantee you wouldn't be influenced by left or right, and many of the judges on there have been on there as minority judges, and it's shifted and gone, and so I understand the reality here, and I think that's what's challenging about this, is that you now, if it becomes a political tool, it then loses relevance as a lifetime appointment and all that.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, any other thoughts, Pastor Joseph III?
I don't have many thoughts on this.
Yeah.
Was that all our questions?
That was all our questions on it, but I do think it was relevant to kind of
crystal clear.
Yeah, this is pretty clear. But listen, if you've got more questions on abortion or any of that, we'd love to sort of like tackle those, because I feel like it's a relevant thing. The other piece of this I wanted to ask you, Miss Leah Brown, is what is for those people that sort of vie for the contention of life, what is the next step or what is, it's for a lot of people who've been fighting abortion for a long time, their life is now over, meaning like the career's over. Is that true? Does that make sense? It's like, if you
would I have been out of a job?
Yeah,
if
like
I were still at my old
it's
job?
pretty much now. This is the lobbyists and all that. It's over. It's like now
No,
it's
not
time
at
to
all.
retire.
So when I was lobbying, we talked about being a pro-life lobbyist. It's been like 6-7 years now.
Mm-hmm.
We weren't just lobbying for laws that would protect babies in the womb. We were lobbying for a lot of things. Like we passed some really great sex trafficking legislation.
Mm-hmm.
That was a big one. So pro-life not being just anti-abortion, but
Right.
also pro-women, pro-babies after they're born, foster care stuff. There was a big shakeup in the foster care. We looked into that. We tried to help out with that. It was like 2015. Adoption regulations, maternity homes to help women who are in crisis.
Is there something on the adoption aspect? Because this is a thing that I just noticed. It costs like $40,000 to adopt a baby.
I think that's common sometimes. It's not always that expensive if you go through the foster care system,
Right,
which I
but-
know a lot of people don't like.
But
to
I don't
do.
understand. So this is the part. Can you tell me why it costs?
I
Tell me
cannot
why.
answer.
Leah, give me an answer. But really, why would it cost so much to adopt a baby?
I don't really have the answer for you on that. I don't. I know that that's not always the case, but I also know that it can be the case.
I mean, it feels like there's a bureaucratic red tape aspect to this, or people are just profiting a whole lot from.
Well, both are true, honestly. There are really great adoption agencies and there are really bad adoption agencies that are essentially trafficking children.
Right. That's where it gets. I don't want to. Man, I might be opening another can of worms.
I mean, it's a big can of worms.
Because what essentially you're doing when you're making somebody pay that amount of money to adopt a baby, it's not just like a regulation fee. This is $40,000 for someone to steward the baby process from the womb of a biological mother to the family of the adopting parents. I struggle with that, and maybe this is the part where is this part of the lobbying aspect that you did, or?
So it's tricky to talk about this because you don't want to paint a terrible terrible.
You don't want to make abortion. Yeah, sorry. You don't want to make adoption agencies come off like they're the enemy.
With any good thing, there are bad actors,
right?
You know, and so with any bad thing, there are bad actors too. So with adoption, I think there are people. I know that there are people out there that have a real heart for helping. You know, look, my mom was adopted.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of adoption in my extended family, so
right.
I care a lot about it because I can see how God can take a situation. I've seen how God takes a situation that is far less than ideal, and you know, He can be glorified through it. You know, I wouldn't be who I am if it weren't for my mom and her
being adopted.
Yeah, her life being saved, even though she had a really crummy life after she was adopted.
Mm-hmm.
She did. It was not a great life, and her parents were not great people, but I'm still grateful for that. So
is that maybe part of it? Is like
very nuanced.
yeah, sure. I guess the part, and I don't want to get down the road too far, but it could be the fact that it costs so much because there's a lot of background checking, a lot of like, hey,
there's a lot of legal stuff. Yes, it is very expensive. I mean, if you think about what do they say, it's you'll spend about $250,000 raising a baby from zero to 18, right?
Mm-hmm.
So babies are expensive, but
man, I got 4 of them. That really is.
I would like to see it. And the people that I worked with, we would have liked to have seen adoption be a little bit more accessible to the right people, and
right.
also the you know, I'll just say, like I said, there are bad actors and there are good actors, and it's very nuanced. And yes, without a doubt, there are adoption agencies that are essentially trafficking children, and it's terrible, and it needs to be shut down. And
man, all right. So if you have any further questions for Mrs. Leah Brown, you can text in at 737-231-0605, or you can go to pastorplek.com and leave us a voicemail. Or you can just go find Leah Brown on social media anywhere, and you can probably just ask her directly any of these questions.
You can't. Well, that's probably one of the most controversial things that will ever come out of my mouth, so I feel bad for saying that on here.
Well,
but it's just true. Not everything is rosy and perfect. But like I said, God can be glorified, can be a really good thing, but it also can be a bad thing.
All right. Well, I appreciate your candidity, the candidness that you brought to the show.
It's
Candor. Sorry, I was candor. You know, sometimes you need help on some words. All right. Anyway, hey, listen, if you'd like to join the podcast, you know how to do it. We'll leave some further information in the show notes, and looking forward to seeing you next show. Have an awesome week.